Hello, good evening, good midday, good morning, whatever. How are you guys doing? Quack quack, that sounds good. Finn says, good evening, my friend. It feels like it's been a while, but that's just because we finally had some price action. There's a few things to talk about. Few victory laps to run, I think. Did we? Like last time we streamed, we were trading, we hadn't broken down, right? 2, 4, 6, yeah, we're still trading at 60k. I told you guys, 60k is a fucking lie, and no one believed me. I said it. I might have said it like 3 or 4 times, but I mean, the end result is the end result, you know? I mean, you're right if you're right. It's just how it is. But no, the range finally gave way, and now we're trading below it, and we finally have something to talk about. Sam says no one. Yeah. I mean, okay, a few people might have believed me, but you never know. Don, you're fed now. Yeah, it is what it is, huh? People called me wrong, and then when I was right, they're like, because you're fed. And I mean, 90% of the people are making jokes, but there's a 10% stupid minority that is actually for real, which is quite funny. Three or 4 times you were screaming like crazy. Yeah. I mean, yeah, is what it is. Anyway, we'll ignore all of that. Supports do fail, yes. I mean, yeah. Is what it is. Good place to short. I mean, a good place to short was when I was shorting. Is your internet fixed? Can I watch live? I mean, you'll have to find out this time. I haven't had problems today, but you never know, man. You never know. I'm getting the whole satellite bullshit internet stuff just as a failsafe. Like I already have 2. I'm gonna get the 3rd one. Just to make sure. What's your next move, Sensei? I have no next move. I am legit and unironically on my way to retire from trading. So there is no next move. There is just like this has become an analyst stream more so than a trader stream. Like before I was talking about my trades. Now I'm just going to talk about the market, zero bias, because I will not be having much. So is that going to fix the sound issues as well? Yeah, probably. Good old Daddy Elon is going to fix everything. But yeah, we'll talk about how this is going to go. Oh yeah, I made these, and we can quickly go over them before, like the monthly is boring anyway. Like fuck the monthly. We're still trading at monthly support, and it still looks shit. Doesn't like, I mean, obviously looks good, but this support is shit. Anyway, we ignore that. We go to the weekly. Are you going to finally escape CT or still be around? I'll still post from time to time. I think. Won't it be hard to be an analyst if everything is ripping to new all-time highs though? Like I don't know if you've watched this show, but I have zero, and I mean like zero FOMO on this asset class. Like to me, this is all made up children's money, and whether it goes up or down doesn't matter as long as there's like, that's how I treated it always, as long as there was money to be made. And now like I'm in the same boat. Like I don't really care where it goes. Doesn't like I don't have any of that, because I mean at the end of the day, like if you don't have like this fundamental belief that this is gonna like go to infinity, I mean why would you care, right? Like I think most of these altcoins are gonna go to zero. Bitcoin might go up, but it's like investing into gold for me, Bitcoin. So and I like, no hate for the people that invest in gold, but I just don't see the point. I'd rather have my money in something that actually changes changes something, like it's an actual investment and not a doomer kind of fail safe to not get fucked by something, which has its place, right? Like I think that has its place, and I still think Bitcoin is better than gold, but I mean, to me, like the doomer asset is just boring. So Netherlands versus England, who you got? I actually haven't watched a single game this year. I'm just been trading and been with my family, and that's been it. I'll watch the World Championship again, but didn't really care about the European one too much. So yeah, let's go over the chart before we completely lose track of everything. But before we do, big shout out to Woo for sponsoring the show. They are kind of the reason this is still happening, because I mean I signed the contract and I'm planning to honor it, and that is for the next like 9 months or so, and then we'll have to see. Maybe someone can convince me to keep going. I don't know. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, we still have at least 9 months because I'm not gonna break the contract that we have with Woo. So big shout out to Woo. They're making this happen quite literally. They're not forcing me to, just saying like just how it is. Oh no, it's because of the contract. Why do you hate us, Don? Nah, I'm enjoying this too. It's just yeah. Yeah, we'll see how it goes in the future. But for now, and for like at least this year, I'm around. Don't you worry. But yeah, weekly time frame, right? So we're in a pickle. This looks quite bad. I made some annotations. Is that the right word? I hope it is. Anyway, I made some comments here on the chart. Posted that on Twitter. We can all go over that real quick and the reasoning for it. So we are currently trading below the prior range, right? Like this was the range. We broke it down. That is the first time that has happened since the bottom, right? So we had the bottom. So we had a range here, for example, like a shitty range, whatever, that broke down. We had a range here, that broke down. That was bear market territory, right? And then we had the bottom, we broke up. We had a range here, we broke up. We formed some sort of range here, broke up. We had a range here, broke up. First time we've broken down, right? That is a major shift in behavior. And I think people are underestimating how important this is. That's a bad sign, right? That's the one thing that you don't want to see, like just generally, especially if the range is this long, right? Like if you have a range, like if you have a 2-day range and it breaks down, who cares, right? But this is like 130 days-ish range. That is a long time. Like that's 4 months of ranging, and that you can now assume is distribution, right? So what you would assume even in a bullish case is that it's going to take 4 months of chop before we can get back up there, right? Like that's the neutral stance, just ignoring everything else. Yeah, not great, right? But so like generally with like as long as we're trading below that range, that's not good. But we can reclaim the range, right? And we've done that before. We had breakdowns of ranges. Like these high time frame ranges very rarely do false breakdowns, right? Like you have a range here, broke down. That was like a major breakdown, led to 50% drawdown. You had a bunch of these before, but very rarely do they like just falsely break down, but it does happen. And if they do, right, whenever these high time frame ranges reclaim, that is a really good setup for upside, right? So like for example, we have a range here, had a false breakdown, came back up, had quite a massive rally. So generally speaking, there is some hope in the form of we're just going to reclaim the range. And that would mean closing back above 61K. That would be good, right? Like if it can make it above here. I would still be cautious because then we have this massive resistance here in the form of 63K, where I think a lot of people would maybe get leverage long between 62, like 60, 61, 62, and 63. And you could still get completely stuffed by 63K, right? I think that's the major resistance in the range. But that's just to be seen, right? That's why I said good above here, because that's a good first sign. But realistically, the moment you get back above 63K, I think there's a world in which it just does this. So let's say it does this, comes back up, does this, maybe falls back down a little, and I think at that point just go vertical, right? And that's why I said 80K plus here. That's kind of what I would expect if you reclaim 63K, and then the 70K resistance, I think it's just complete and utter bullshit at this point. We've tested it a bunch of times. We've tested it before, and we've tested it here-ish, right? So like basically, it's old, it's garbage. It's the same, like I said, at 60K, like, hey, 60K, you really don't want to bid. It's too old, it's too shit. And you saw what happened, right? Broke down. It's the same on the other side. Someone's saying you have bad internet again. Possible. At this point, who knows? Always expect the bad internet. Just watch it with delay if you run into troubles. It's not like you have to be live. Finally, first time I listen live. Hey, Don, thanks a lot for the insight and the patience. Appreciate it, man. Happy to have you around. You don't believe in the deviation scenario? I think generally, okay? And this is something that I always say, and people just kind of tend to ignore. Whenever you have a high time frame signal, you don't want to assume that it's false until it's actually proven false. So what people do is this breaks down, they immediately stop. They're like you had this range, right? And it was fucking boring. And the moment you get volatility, people are like, oh, fuck, I need to trade now, right? But at this point, like basically all of this is distribution, and you're trying to kind of get in front of this, proving that this is like a deviation, whatever, and it's going to come back up. But technically you're just fading the new trend, and it's one of the worst things to do, right? So I think unless you have a really, really good reason to buy, or to fade a high time frame breakout like this, just don't fucking do it. Like, I don't see the point. Give it some time. See how it looks in 3 or 4 or 5 weeks. Or, I mean, if you absolutely want to take a trade, I mean, technically this is bearish confirmation, right? This is technically where the bears start shorting. It's not where the bulls should necessarily jump in my opinion anyway. That's how I look at it from a trader's perspective. Investor, you could be like, hey, this broke down, I can make some money here. But generally, you don't want to be the guy that, and I can show you this on lower time frames, you don't want to be the guy that buys. And I saw this live, man. I saw this live. When we broke 6K, we had shit volatility the entire time, right? For a year plus. People were buying this. Like the entirety of CT was dip buying here at 5.5K. And then they got completely wiped by one candle that just basically, or like 2 candles that went down 20, 30%. And then it went down 40. And then at the end of the day, they were down 50% on these buys, and that's Bitcoin. And you don't want to be that guy just because you're starved for action, right? Because there's been very little action. And I think we're in a similar situation. It's better than it was at 6K. At 6K, I was like, okay, this is probably going to teleport down. I bought, like, even though I knew, even I bought too early. I bought down here. I was like, oh, this is a massive capitulation event. Let me buy. And then I bought, and I was underwater I bought really well. And then I was underwater basically. I mean, I did get to buy much, much more at 3.2K, like down here. But I was underwater on these buys for fucking 4 months. It was not fun. And that made, like, I bought down here and I was still uncomfortable when it came back down here. Just based on the fact that my first buys were shit, right? Like, if I just had this, I would have been like, okay, I'll give it, like, I'll chill. I was very much not happy with my positioning down here. I obviously was when it went higher, but I was just too fast, too eager to get into position. I don't think that's necessarily the play. So that's kind of how it is right now. We broke down. Doesn't have to, like, obviously this is after a bear market. Like this is a bear market, a lengthy one. This is technically just a consolidation. So this is why I'm saying this is better, but still it's a similar situation. And for me, makes more sense just to chill. If it comes back, like, I mean, I turned, like I started shorting basically at like 65, 66K in here. I think if it comes back there, that would be an excellent long signal. So if I was like still old time swing shorting, I generally don't do that anymore. Like for me, it's more short term. But if I was doing it like I was doing it in 2018, I would just literally hold that position, that short position, until it's break even again, and then flip it to long, just to make sure that I'm not getting fucked by like the cycle being over. There's a chance that this is the top of the cycle. I wouldn't say it's like super high, but I think there's a decent chance. It kind of felt like it at 65K to me. Not entirely sure, like now that it's a little bit lower, I'm not entirely sure if that's still accurate or not. But yeah, that's kind of how I would have looked at it. I would have been like, hey, I got really early on this new trend, and with this breakdown, the trend is confirmed. Let me hold on to this position as much as I can, and then go from there. So yeah. So what you're saying, short 63K is a really good setup? I don't know, man. I don't know. Like, it's a little bit of a risky one because you might just be shorting into a range reclaim where everyone's just full slamming it long. I'm just saying, like, there is a resistance here left that does need to technically be flipped. It depends on the lower time frames realistically, on how this plays out. Like if the lower time frames show weakness around 63K, I think that's a decent short, yes. If you have zero weakness, I mean, you wouldn't want to get in front of that. So it depends is my answer again, as always. But yeah, that explains all of this. We have okay support here at 52K. The reason why I'm saying okay is because we've tested it once already. For me, this has been tested. Like we front ran it a little bit, but it was close enough that I'm just like, for me, this counts as a test. The first test is always great. The second test, less so, right? So I had quite high conviction that we would bounce from 52K. We bounced from 53, but I was close enough. That's where like 54.1 is where I closed my shorts. Yeah, I think generally we tested it before. That's why it's okay. It's still decent, but it's not as great as it was before. If we go back there, I'd be a little bit worried that it might actually just fully break down. And then we have 42, 43K down here. I think that if we do something like this where it does this, I think this is just the best support to buy on the entire chart, at least short term. I think if you get to buy 52 to 54, there's a good chance to get a bounce to 52K. It could, like, there's a good chance that is the bottom if it gets there. And just generally, that's like a nice level. Like if it's bearish, I think if we're still bearish at that point, I still think you're gonna be able to sell like 47, 48, 49, even 52. If it's bullish, that might be the bottom of the entire move, right? So in any case, I think you're gonna get a good bounce. 30K, that's for me the lowest I could see. Like just if everything goes wrong, the lowest I could see this go. I don't think it's very likely. I would give this like a 1 to 5% chance that we're gonna pull back to 30K just in general in the next 2 years. I think it's very unlikely, but if it does, I mean that's where you just that's where I might actually come back in and trade this thing again, even though I really don't want to, right? But at that point I'd be like, hey, people are just fucking idiots. Like 40K is great. 30K, at that point people will be just fucking stupid. Like, I think that's dumb. Like, if you're selling at 30K, you've lost your goddamn mind. And that is enough for me to either turn into an investor in this asset, or be even back to trading it, just because I think the opportunity is great enough. But yeah, that's it. I think if we did all of that, and this is why this last tweet is here, you would have a bunch of people flip bearish again, waiting for 20K or whatever. And I don't think that's ever going to be hit. So that's why I have this comment down here. Hey Don, we still didn't get a wick down. Yeah, but we don't necessarily have to, just can grind. But yeah, I do agree, like this has been a very muted move down still. Hey Don, thanks for everything. Been watching you for over a year now. Crazy how pretty much all traders are respected. We're shouting bull except for you. And yet again, you were right. Well done. Appreciate it, man. Yeah, I mean, just doing my thing. I mean, the thing is, like, I just because I don't listen to anyone else, and like I don't fall into these biases that other people do. Like, there's a bunch of good traders that just talk with good traders all the time, and then they all have the same bias, not necessarily because they think so, but because everyone around them thinks so. And that's not something I do. So that, I think, is a little bit of an edge. But then when it comes to altcoins or whatever, they talk about the same altcoin, they tweet about the same altcoin, they make a bunch of money on the same altcoin. It's a little bit of a different story, right? Like, that's something that I don't do, and then you miss out on a bunch. But when it comes to Bitcoin, I just kind of like don't get swept up in the emotions that other people have. Is BDB Alap, is that Big Dick Bull or whatever he's called? If yes, yes, he's actually been proven to be on Twitter a couple times. Deletes tweets and all that kind of stuff. Hey Don, thanks for being around. Do you think triple top is still a meme, or the ETF made it trade a bit like TradFi? I still like triple top's fucking dumb as fuck. The problem was that you just got all the the technicals. Like, this is dumb as fuck that we topped like this. But the technicals were overshadowed by basically euphoria in the whole altcoin market. Like, you saw the meme coins, you saw how ridiculous all of that got, and then the TA just went out the window on that front. Like, I don't think triple tops are something you necessarily want to be trading as like a bearish signal. But in this case, like, I mean, the reason why I was bearish was because of other market influences and all that kind of stuff. Hey Don, thanks for being around. Do you think oh yeah, I already answered that. Do you think Sol would be a good buy when a Bitcoin bottoms at 30 to 40K? I have no idea. No idea if it would still be like super relevant or not. Probably. I'm also not saying Bitcoin has to go to 30, 40K. Don't get me wrong. I'm like, for me, this is just, you trade this, I say this unironically, you trade this level to level now. Or like, I mean, technically speaking, without bias, this is a range that broke down. You should be bearish, right? Like, just ignoring everything else. Not being bearish after something like this makes no sense. You can be bullish again once the range is reclaimed, but not being bearish makes no sense. But that said, most of us were or are in this space because they believe in it, they like it, they want to have exposure to it. So you kind of have to go at it from like a more bullish view. And then, like, if the chart is clearly bearish, so depending on how you go at it, like, you have a bullish chart, right? You have a bearish chart, and you have, like, let's say you have a neutral chart in the middle. And if you go at it without bias, you will have to be bearish here because it's bearish, right? But given you have a bullish bias because you're in the space, I think you should be like, you never should go into like the bearish side of things. You should always be neutral bullish. if you have that underlying bias that this space is going to go up, everything's going to be good, and all that kind of stuff. You should never go to the bearish side of things. So like the base case should be neutral to bullish. And when you're neutral, you should be trading level to level. So when I'm saying like, hey, you should technically trade this level to level, it's because I assume that people that are in the space are in it because they're bullish on the space. That's the only reason to be necessarily in the space. It's one of the reasons why I'm stopping like to actively trade, because I'm not bullish the space anymore. Like I've kind of lost my faith in this market turning around. Like actually just like I think the bad actors kind of overwhelmed it, and I don't think that's gonna go away. Like I've tried a couple of market cycles. I don't think they're gonna go away. So we're kind of stuck with them. That's why I'm like, when you're not underlyingly bullish, I think it makes no sense to trade a market full time. That's why I'm stopping. But if you're doing it, like I think that's the way you should look at it. And then you should be neutral to bullish, and neutral right now, given the chart is clearly bearish. Funny how weak Whiff has been since they started hating on you. I mean, yeah, they got like the poor Whiff guys, man. It's fucking brutal. We can look at it in a sec. Do CT celebs like Ansem, Rune, Crypto, are they a benefit to market traders? I think like it makes it worse because they extract value that doesn't really get re-added. It makes for good trading conditions short term, but long term it makes the trading conditions much worse. Hey Don, thanks for your time. Do you think it's a good approach to see how the market reacts to the next Mt. Gox distributions, as in whenever a market does not crash in on a distribution, the bottom is in? It does help. Like negative news, like good price action on negative news is a good bottom indicator, at least short term, yeah. Why bad actors will get fucked eventually? They are the visitors, given they have no passion or stake other than shallow money interest. Yeah, but I mean, I think the majority of crypto is now people that are not there for ideological reasons, but for money. It's basically, I think Kobe described this really well on Twitter. He was like, the early entrants were basically like interested in what this could do, and the later entrants, the ones that we have had in the last 1, 2, 3, 4 years, have been basically seeing how other people got rich with crypto and they want the same. And there's a very big difference between the motivations, and therefore like we get more and more cynical, right? Like people are in it for the money, and that's fair enough, right? I'm not hating. It's not like I was much different. I think I was just early on that trend. Like I saw crypto, I was like, I mean, this is quite cool, but I'm here for the money, and I extracted money. And I mean, it's not like I'm hating on anyone that does it. I just think generally the space has shifted very, very far in that direction, and that's just not good for the longevity of it. But it doesn't have to mean it all goes to zero. It just means, like me personally, I'm not excited about it anymore. And then when you're not excited, you tend to then you have that whole bullish, neutral, bearish thing, and then you flip into the bearish thing too often. And I don't like it. It makes me, like when I'm bearish something, I have to be very negative to be able to hold on to it, and like in all aspects of life, and I don't want to be that person. So I just tend to stay away. Did you study psychology at school, or did you get all these insights just from trading? I did study psychology, but they're coming from trading. I don't think I learned much studying psychology, not gonna lie. Do you have a course or something to learn your TA? No, but I mean, I have a bunch of free videos, right? Like they're all free, they're all here. Now Legacy is interested in what the tech can do, and participants think it's all a scam, flipping we never wanted. Yeah. Kind of like that a little bit. Don, why don't you teach trading now that you will have a lot of spare time? I don't know. I don't even know if anyone would be interested in that, and I don't know if I could. Like, I trade so autistically that I need a cred translator to make any sense to people. And most of the time it's just like, hey, I just like, this is just how I felt. So yeah. Duck House Health, wishing you nothing but best. I'm doing okay again. I'm gonna go back into like doing sports and stuff. I missed my marathon because I like I said, I got really, really sick, but I'm alive again. What would you do if you were not trading? I'm actually gonna sign up to like go back to university again. Very likely anyway. It's fun. It's fun to learn things. To me anyway. Not because I like want to work anywhere or anything. Just because I want to learn stuff. Anyway, that's the weekly time frame. I hope that makes sense. It's pretty straightforward. I think 52k could be a decent buy again, but it's a little bit risky. If it goes to 42k, I mean, that's just close your eyes, pray to fucking God. At least for me, that would be obvious trade. And if it gets there, like I still have, like I'm not fully retired yet. I still have one trade in me. I would probably try to trade the crash from. Like if it moves towards 42k, I would try to catch that, and then see if that is the bottom, or if we're gonna get rejected by resistance at that point or not. Whatever. That would be one more trade that I'm willing to take. But if it doesn't happen, if we just reclaim, I think I don't know. We'll see. I'm saying like there's one more trade I would like to do, and it would be a bullish one. I don't want to end on a bearish note. Like shorting 65 to like 54 is not the note that I would want to end on. Like I would like to end on a bullish trade, but yeah, we'll see. How old are you? If it's not too personal, I am between 30 and 40. Has something you learned in college helped you in trading? I wonder what needed to be good as you. No. It's just literally just trading helped me in my trading, nothing else. And being cynical helped me protect me from like the 80% drawdowns in crypto. I generally think if I was trading any other market, I would have not done that well because I'm too cynical. But in crypto, it's perfect. Like I have the perfect mixture of being cynical and but still not being like a full bad heart, whatever. So I'm on the bull train until I get super fucking cynical, and then I'm not. Quick question, do you still have your old Twitch videos? So much learning was there, pretty please. I think Twitch deleted all of them. Sorry, bro. But yeah, that's the weekly time frame. The daily time frame, I mean, these are all weekly levels. And I think the daily levels kind of meh. Like they're not that good anyway. There's support at 52, but that's the same as on the weekly time frame. There's resistance here at 58. Yeah, it's meh. I don't like it. Where is this coming from? Oh yeah, I just drew this while on the show with Cred. I think there's a decent, like you could argue like 60k is a decent level ish, but yeah, we're in this weird. Look at that. Like in this weird downtrend, very strong, very controlled, not really capitulationary. Like usually when you have these moves, you have like big moves down and you have counter trend stuff. This has just been straight down, but nothing really too aggressive, which is not great, I think. Like that is something that you don't necessarily want to see. But if we get back above this, starts looking much better. And that's the same level as on the weekly, like 62, 63k above there looks really good. below looks really shit. It's just how it is. I think you have to be very, very strong in the wording. Like I saw someone be like, hey, the reason why people hate on what you're saying is because you're wording it that strongly. I think it's very appropriate. Like this is a range that broke to the downside that is very bearish until it's proven not to be. And then it's quite bullish. When you traded with leverage, how did you manage trying to get the timing right for big moves versus having your trade bleed from high funding rates? Would you enter, exit leverage trades multiple times? Yes, I would. And also, like, I mean, you have to be really high leverage to be getting wrecked by funding. Funding is not that high these days. Back in the day, you had to be a little bit more careful, yeah. You would have to pick your spots, basically. If we dip to 42K, do you think there would be wicks lower than that to the high 30s? I think that would be the wick. I don't think we would spend much time there. But yeah. What if you think someone is asking what I think? Like, I'll just read the question. Assuming Bitcoin goes into the 40s, what do you think that means for ETH? What will make you finally bullish on it? I don't fucking know is the answer. I have no idea. Look at this. This is not great, right? Like it's chopping around support resistance while being rejected by resistance. That's not great. And that's right before we get the ETF. And I have no idea how the flows are going to be, right? So I'm personally just not touching ETH. I get it when people want to trade it. I get it. Like if it goes up, it's going to be so fucking obvious. People are going to be like, how the fuck did you not get super bullish into the ETF? Like that's just so obvious of a trade. But also like if it dumps, people are going to be like, this was so telegraphed. There was so much weakness. The entire market was acting like shit. No one was trading this. Like, why did you expect the ETF flows to be good with the market trading like complete and utter garbage? Both of those sides make sense to me. And I'm not smart enough to figure out which side is the correct one. Like, it's just straight up, like, I have no fucking idea. And when I have no idea and I'm in between, like, two very strong stances, right? Like, the first thing I do is I look at Bitcoin. I'm like, okay, what is Bitcoin going to do, right? Like, this is the cool thing about trading altcoins. You can always look for Bitcoin direction, right? And Bitcoin is right now technically trading bearishly, so taking an ETH position is a hard thing to do because you basically would have to bet that that bullish move is going to be so strong it overpowers the Bitcoin direction, or even reverses it, right? Let's say the ETF is really good and you get bullish Bitcoin price action because ETH goes up 50%. I mean, then yeah, fair enough. But to me, like that's like Bitcoin is technically leaning bearish. So it's hard for me to position an ETH in the first place. And then I have these two positions. And then I would, like, if I get into a trade, I would just oscillate in between them and be like every time it goes down and I'm in a long, I'd be like, oh shit. I bought into it and this is going to go down because obviously the market's trading like shit. And then the other way around, I would just psyops myself out of that position. That's why I'm not taking any. I don't think I am capable of holding a proper position without getting wrecked either way. That's just not for me. But I mean, like, I'm not saying ETH is a bad trade in any direction, right? Into the ETF, I wouldn't necessarily want to be shorting, but I could see that be a good trade. So it's kind of like, it's a weird one. I respect to the people that are putting their balls on the line and are betting. For me, this is as close to a 50-50 as it gets. And I have no idea what the invalidation would be like. Like I could see ETH go up 20% and then dump immediately by 30%. Or I could see the opposite happen, like dump 20% and go up by 40% afterwards. Either way, like I would probably get fucked by that trade. So I'm just not trading it. Do you think we will get an alt season if Bitcoin makes new all-time high? I mean, I said so, like when we were trading at 20K, I was like, Bitcoin is going up. And I mean, just hold your Bitcoin. And then when we're trading at 60, 70K, maybe altcoins get relevant again. Altcoins never got relevant besides the memes, obviously, right? So alt season, I think, is a thing of the past. I don't think we're getting alt season, like a general alt season, just because we have too many coins, right? Like I don't think, like Litecoin, for example, like that might move up and it has a narrative, right? The whole, like it's going to get an ETF next, blah, blah, blah. But like there's 10 or 20 or 30 versions of Litecoin out there. And maybe Litecoin actually does well at some point, but the other 20 or 30 will not. And then there's so many coins and so many bag holders, right? And I don't think we're going to get the whole market moving up as one again, unless you get complete and utter super mania again, which means at this point, right, because market caps are so much higher than they used to be in the past, you would have to have everyone involved, right? Your mom, your dad, everyone would need to trade crypto. Then I could see it. Otherwise, no. So to answer your question, general alt season, I don't think so. Coins that are going to be hot, that are altcoins, very likely. Yeah, there's going to be altcoins that are going to be super hot, that are going to be traded by a bunch of people, and they are going to run like 10x, 100x, 1000x. But the general alt season, I think, is a thing of the past, unless we get the entire world in on this Ponzi, which I don't think is happening anytime soon. If Bitcoin plays out the way you see it, do you see yourself entering Doge? No, I mean, I'm not going to enter anything. When I say I'm retiring from trading, I mean it. Like, it's not like I'm going to buy any of these. If anything, like the only thing that I could see myself buying is Bitcoin if it goes ridiculously low. And then just because those trades, when it's so ridiculously low that I think like people are just being super dumb, those are fun. Right, like those are fun and zero stress, right? Like I bought 16K, and that was a little bit stressful because I bought it with way too much size for my liking. But like if it nukes again and I put a bunch in, like if it massively nukes and I put a bunch in, like that's just fun. Like the world collapses and you're just like fuck it, we ball. Like those moments are fun and those positions are fun, and I can hold those for a while. I could even turn it into investment. But you're not going to see me buy something that I think is going to go to zero. And I think Dogecoin at some point is going to go to zero. And I think all the meme coins too, and all the altcoins too, right? So given like I'm not into the active trading anymore, I think we'll see. Maybe my mind changes, but right now, like I don't really see the appeal anymore. You will not see me buy any of these. But I'm not saying it's a bad play just because I'm not doing it. You said limit orders on your levels or market? Both. What would you do if you would start again at zero? Research new projects and stuff that is new. Like for example, like there was like for some time there was like the ordinals coming out, and there was quite a bit of like you had like 3 or 4 months to play that. I actually called that really, really well, the ordinals trade. I was like, if you want to, because people keep asking me the same question, I was like, look into ordinals, and I'd set that for 2 or 3 months. And then ordinals went up like 10 to 100x. And then I was like, okay, now it's kind of late. And then they fucking just went all the way back down again. And I traded none of it. But those kind of things, right? Like you see something that is complicated, and therefore people don't do it. And those are the opportunities. They come around every now and then. Like you had SocialFi, came up, had its rally, went down again. Like sometimes like new things come up and they're a little bit more complicated, so people are lazy to get into them. And those are the ones that I would look for. And then just like oftentimes like just putting 50 in and just doing something on those platforms will get you airdrops that pay you like much more than you put in, even if it goes to zero. You previously mentioned base as possibly being where a lot of money would be. What are your thoughts now? The whole base thing died out because memes died out, and I mean, just generally the altcoin market died. It was good for a little bit, but that I would call like not a good call. Like that just didn't really happen. Like there was a bunch of stuff that went up, but it was much harder. Like the ordinals call when I made it, that was like you couldn't miss. The base call that I made, definitely could have missed on that one. So I don't know. I have no sector right now that I'm looking at that feels the same way. But I will mention it if something comes up. That like most of the time I'm too lazy to get into. The sectors are gonna be too small for me, or just not. Like I'm just gonna be too lazy. But I'll mention it if I see it. I can't believe you're breaking up with us and leaving us. Nah. I mean, I'm not leaving. Like I said, there's gonna be 8 or 9 months left of me on this show at least. And I mean, I'm shit posting on Twitter is always fun. And then who knows? Maybe you guys can convince me to stay a little bit longer. We'll see. We'll see how busy life gets, basically. When you use candle body versus wick, thank you. I generally rarely use wicks. Like you can make a wick relatively easy. I've made wicks on charts, and then you could be like, hey, this is very important. Where the wick to, and I can tell you this is literally just me being an idiot getting stopped out at the top or at the bottom, or like capitulating at the top or at the bottom, more likely, because I rarely use stops when I actually trade. And I've made wicks that where you'd be like, hey, why is like, and then you search for a reason why that wick went there. It's just because I capitulated, and obviously not on Bitcoin, but on like smaller coins. And it's the same for everything. Like, I don't think the wicks are too important. I think the bodies are more important. So very rarely do I use wicks unless we get into uncharted territory like here. That's why I used the wick, and because it's been more accurate. I kind of had it here. I saw that price action wasn't really confirming it, and then I used the wick. So I always use the body if I can, if the price action kind of makes sense and respects the level. If it doesn't, I look at the wick and I'm like, oh, does that make more sense? And if yes, then I use the wick, but very rarely. Wicks are good only for SFP strategy. Would you agree? Yeah, I don't necessarily. I'm not even the biggest fan of SFPs, but yeah. So yeah, that's Bitcoin. Someone asked about WIF. That's just a tragedy. Bearish retest. You guys, like this chart trades so well, right? Like we had this range here. We had an overthrow and then bounce from the range low. Capitulation into bearish retest into another capitulation, and now it just kind of looks like it's bleeding out. It doesn't look good. Like this is like so much more bearish than the other memes, and I think it's because it's oversaturated. Like the people that bought with, I think like literally the people that find the whole haha it has a hat funny, I think all of them bought, and the other people are just not gonna be willing to buy it. But above the range low, above 2.26, like 2.3, like somewhere here, starts looking much better, but I don't see the point. The hat stays off, yeah, for now. It doesn't look good, in my opinion. And I don't think that's necessarily gonna turn around. I think you're gonna get like a lengthy downtrend, and then you're gonna get a big bounce, right? Like I could see this go below $1, and then get a big bounce again towards like 1.8, maybe 2, and then people are hyped again, and then it starts bleeding out, and it does this over and over and over again. That's kind of how I would see this trading in the future, unless you get a massive influx of new entrants in the market. And right now, it really doesn't look like it. Wouldn't it be a nice challenge if you start a 10 or 20K account on Woo and trade it up to 1 million? Yeah, but what's the point? Like I already did the 100K to 1 million on Woo. That's enough. It's also not necessarily the way you would trade, right? Like the way I traded that account is completely and utterly stupid. I was just basically just taking full advantage of the fact that it's like smaller-ish, and that I can just do whatever the fuck I want with it. And then I just traded in a way where I was basically like, I am very certain that this is gonna go up, and then it went up, and I was like, I'm very certain this is gonna go down, and then went down. Like, this is not the way to normally trade. Like, you have to be less strict and less like 100% certain that something's happening. So it makes your trading worse if you're trading these competitions. But it was fun, kind of cool to complete it. But yeah. So yeah, WIF doesn't look good. Solana has been really strong, but I generally don't think it does look like on the USD pair. It doesn't look that good either. We had this whole bearish retest thing going on here. Not great. It is stronger than almost all the other altcoins, but like if the strongest altcoin looks like this, I think it's time to chill for a little bit. Doge obviously not looking great. All the other altcoins not great. You have Pepe has some sort of level here. It's weekly support. That's where it's bouncing from, but it's running into daily resistance. Also not so great. So like just generally looking through the markets, I don't really see much that is too interesting anyway. So can you please give tips on selecting best coins for scalping? Thanks. You just want to look at the volumes and what is actively being traded. You don't want to be like trading Litecoin, for example. If you're trading low time frame stuff, you want to be the stuff that people look at. Solana is one of them, like the active stuff. So volume helps, and just general being like having eyes on. That's the stuff you want to be trading. So there you go. I think that's enough for today. I'm gonna call it a night. Thanks for coming by. Really appreciate it. I hope it didn't FUD you out of anything. Like I said, you gotta make up your own mind. Look at this thing. But I think like just generally makes sense. Like from a neutral perspective, right? And I would say like I'm pretty neutral here in my commentary. You wanna be like when you have a range, right? No matter which direction, if you have a range, and I mean anyone that's listened like for a while knows that this is something I say. When you have a range and it breaks down, assume that that breakdown is real until it's reclaimed. And just because this is Bitcoin doesn't mean you have to do anything different. And it's obviously the same. Like if you have a range and it breaks out and you're like, oh, I want to be bearish this thing, I'm going to fade it. It's the same fucking thing. Like you don't want to fade it until it's back in the range. And then the good thing is that you have a really risk-defined entry the moment it's back in the range, because if it goes back below there, it's fucked, like proper fucked. And if it goes back above there, that's a really good move coming, right? So basically your invalidation is baked in, which is really nice. When you kind of just looking at this thing right here where it's trading right now, I mean, what the fuck are you gonna do with it? Where's your invalidation? Cannot be like, it cannot be 52K because that's the nearest support. Cannot be 42 because I mean that's what you want to be buying. Anything in between could be wicked. Like you have to trade really low time frames if you're trading this, and that's fair enough, right? Like if you go to the 4 hour and you're trading this, there's decent invalidations here, right? Like we had that wick to the downside that really shouldn't have been taken out, then it nuked, and you didn't take it out, so you're still in the trade, and then you can just move along basically. But yeah, that's just kind of how I look at it. If you want to trade these, trade them on the low time frame. On the higher time frame, it's just bearish, and then we'll see how it looks when it either reclaims or goes lower. And yeah, so yeah, appreciate you guys coming by. Much love. Big shout out to Woo for sponsoring the show, and we'll see/talk to each other on Friday. Bye.